I've featured almost all of the most famous Japanese monsters on this show, from Godzilla to Gamera, Mothra, Rodan, but there is one legendary Japanese monster I haven't gotten to yet: Frankenstein. Yeah, you know, Frankenstein. The classic story of a radioactive cave boy experimented on by Nazis who grows giant size and goes on to fight a fire-breathing puppy dog dinosaur. You know, Frankenstein. Alright, so maybe that's not the classic story of Frankenstein. It should have been, though. Frankenstein Conquers the World, also known as Frankenstein vs. Baragon, is a 1965 kaiju movie directed by Ishiro Honda, who's best known for directing several of the early entries in the Godzilla series. The film was actually a co-production between the United States and Japan, who decided to combine elements of both Japanese and Western culture. Kaiju movies and the name Frankenstein because, hey, people have heard that name before. This collaboration was still a lot more successful than Pink Lady and Jeff. American International Pictures, bringing you the very best in Japanese monster cinema. I can't tell if this is Dr. Frankenstein's laboratory or just a really classy meth lab. Oh, never mind, it's one of those World War II Nazi scientist labs. Well, I guess Dr. Wily had to do something before he made robots. And by the looks of it, he's been busy inventing Kool-Aid. The Fiend! However, some soldiers take it away before he can go on to create Frankenstein's army. And if you're wondering if I'll ever do that movie, the answer is... I don't know, maybe. And it's a little late to destroy your findings now. The Nazis already took it. Alright, look alive, people. The sub's gotta be on the set of 1941 stat. The Germans managed to hand off the trunk to a Japanese sub, and considering this was in exchange for the technology to those fancy Japanese toilets, I think it was a pretty fair trade. Alright, let's take a look at what's in here, and... oh, damn it, they were supposed to save Hitler's brain, not his heart.
Frankenstein's heart, Lieutenant.
Frankenstein?
Excuse me, I think you mean Frankenstein's monster? Frankenstein is the doctor who created it. I need to be pedantic and point that out so people know how smart I am.
It's still living?
It can never die.
Never?
Frankenstein's story is very old. You never read it?
Yeah, but I didn't think it was real. Is the very hungry caterpillar in there too? They explain that Frankenstein's heart is immortal and can never be truly killed, and that by studying it, they might learn the secret to regrowing body parts. Wait a second, by the looks of it, they're in Hiroshima. Now, didn't something happen to Hiroshima at the end of World War II? Oh yeah! Well, it's their fault for not reading a history book and knowing this would happen. We then cut to 15 years later, where scientists in Hiroshima are still studying the lingering effects of the atomic bombing.
The story of Hiroshima is tragic, but it's given us the opportunity to study the cellular tissues of the human body.
See, the atomic bombing of Hiroshima wasn't that bad. We learned a lot about radiation poisoning. Every mushroom cloud has a silver lining.
It's ironic, but science progresses in this way. We've got to work to turn tragedy into happiness in the future.
My only regret is that more people weren't killed. We could have saved a lot more lives that way. Our main character is Dr. James Bowen, played by American actor Nick Adams, who you may remember from Godzilla vs. Monster Zero. Clearly this movie takes place before he quit his job to join the space program and started a romance with astronaut Fuji. However, their research is interrupted by a weird homeless boy roaming around Japan.
Did you see a strange-looking boy just now?
He went in that direction.
This is really something. He murdered our dog, and he took it away with him. I believe he's going to eat it.
What? Don't look at me. Just because somebody made a dog-eating reference in an Asian movie doesn't mean I have to make a joke here. Anyway, Bowen is busy trying to seduce his co-worker Sueko, and considering it's strongly rumored that Nick Adams and Kumi Mizuno had an affair in real life, he must be doing a pretty good job. However, Bowen isn't the only one with eyes on her, since I think the homeless boy from earlier drunkenly called a cab to go to her place. Ah well, best throw him some baloney and hope he goes away. They also run into him while taking a romantic walk along the beach, which makes me think that these two might actually be the ones stalking this weird cave boy and not the other way around.
Some milk?
Strange, he's not Japanese, he's Caucasian.
No, I'm pretty sure he's Japanese. They learn that the boy has a strong resistance to radiation, indicating that he's the regenerated form of Frankenstein, or Frankenstein's monster, or whatever. Meanwhile, in Word from When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth oil fields, sure it's available now, we see one of the Japanese naval officers that brought Frankenstein's heart to Japan, who somehow survived having an atomic bomb dropped over his head.
I understand they found a child who resists radiation. You said in Hiroshima, sometime during the last war, you saw a heart that wouldn't stop beating.
I almost forgot about that incident.
You know how it is. You see something that defies all known science and completely transcends death, and it tends to slip your mind. While this guy's busy trying to remember seeing the most amazing scientific discovery of the century, though, another amazing thing happens. He gets attacked by something tunneling under the earth.
That's how they get you. They're under the goddamn ground.
All of this destruction is caused by a monster called Baragon, who burrows under the ground. What, you didn't think Frankenstein was going to be the only monster in this movie, did you? That is not the Japanese way. Meanwhile, the scientists are busy studying Frankenstein by showing him rock music? Frankenstein loved groovy music. Frankenstein loves rock and roll so much, he actually invents the tradition of throwing TVs out of hotel rooms. Although, I think Frankenstein might be interested in something other than rock and roll. No one cockblocked Frankenstein. Okay, actually Frank was just interested in shiny objects. Look, no one said his brain was immortal.
Going larger and larger. Is it the radioactivity?
Well, it's a 1960s sci-fi movie, so yeah, probably. Frankenstein is indeed growing far beyond human size, which means flash photography is not recommended, fellas. Doesn't the guy who saw Frankenstein's heart have anything to say about this?
About the end of the war, the Third Reich sent us Frankenstein's heart, and we took it. This heart, the doctor said, wouldn't die.
Did you see it?
I did.
I would have mentioned this at some point since the war, but I didn't think it was that important. We then cut to Frankfurt, Germany, birthplace of Dr. Frankenfurter. I don't know what talking to an old popcorn magnate is gonna tell you, but whatever. This is the Nazi scientist from earlier. I guess smashing his bottles made sure he didn't go to jail for war crimes.
There's a way for you to find out if a creature is truly Frankenstein. Cut off the monster's arms or legs. If it is Frankenstein, new arms or legs will grow.
And if it turns out he's not Frankenstein, my bad. Sucks to be him. However, not everyone is enthusiastic about this plan.
You objected to the idea of a zoo. You insisted that he was human then.
Yes, I did. Though he's not like a human, not really. He's more gorilla.
Exactly. It'll be just like cutting one of King Kong's arms off. You see where I'm coming from, right? Look at it this way, even if he does die, you'll have plenty of Frankenstein meat to barbecue. Actually, I'm beginning to think Frankenstein might actually be King Kong since he gets angered by bright lights and photographers.
That's right, creep!
Hello, operator? We've got a Frankenstein on the loose. Yes, a giant one. We're in Japan. Damn, now that Frankenstein's loose, they are really gonna regret not cutting his arms and legs off earlier. Also, like King Kong, Frankenstein has a thing for women, except Frank doesn't prefer blondes. Frankenstein manages to get away, but it turns out he left a little something behind.
It got into my hand and it went bad, so I lopped it off at the wrist.
Alright, now that you've got Frankenstein's hand, maybe you can make up some of the money you lost by making it think stunt double on the Addams Family. The police seem to be having trouble finding Frankenstein. I guess a giant feral cave boy really blends into the crowd. Or maybe they're just waiting for this statue of Kim Jong-un to come to life and fight him.
Witnesses say he's larger than 10 humans.
10 humans? Shit, that's like 6 gorillas.
And I've also heard he keeps on growing bigger.
If he's really so big, why can't you find him?
Good question. On the plus side, now that they have Frankenstein's hand, that means they can replace Luke Skywalker's hand for real. They also learned Frankenstein needs massive amounts of protein in order to survive. Okay, I guess the dubbers must have gotten bored halfway through that line. Either that or they censored the word cow for some reason. Despite his best efforts to remain hidden, there's one thing Frankenstein can't resist. Frankenstein wanna twist again like he did last summer. Actually, considering how awkward he is at finding food, I'm amazed Frankenstein's able to avoid detection. Just go to a store, you dick! But hey, who needs that when there's a whole village of perfectly good people to eat? You know, for as much bigger as Frankenstein's gotten, he still hasn't regrown that front tooth of his. Also, the scientists find out Frankenstein's hand has died after they forgot to give it enough protein. Damn it, people, you can't just forget to feed things. Didn't that Tamagotchi teach you anything? Looks like they'll have to try and find the rest of them.
Is it cold in the Mount Kizu area? He instinctively seeks a climate like that of Frankfurt, where his ancestors came from. That's a cold place.
Oh, please, I live in Saskatchewan. You know what minus 30 degrees feels like? 'Cause I do. And instead of being attracted to the cold, I think Frankenstein's really in the mountains for the music. So what are they playing? Well, wrong movie series, but it's still kinda catchy. Unfortunately, the underground monster we saw earlier doesn't appreciate the noise. Baragon's a country music fan. I think the real reason Baragon's doing this is because he's pissed his name was taken out of the title of the American version of the movie. Actually, the original plan was for Godzilla to be in the movie, but this idea was dropped and he was replaced by Baragon. That's right, we almost got Frankenstein versus Godzilla. Oh well, at least we kinda got Godzilla versus the Wolfman. Not only does Baragon completely destroy this village, but he also lets Frankenstein take the blame for it.
Do you still hold the opinion that Frankenstein should not die?
Look, just because Hammer Film said Frankenstein must be destroyed does not mean we have to listen to him, alright? Bowen doesn't believe Frankenstein destroyed the village, and he's got a point. They are in Japan. That could have been any giant monster. So in addition to Frankenstein, they've got to watch out for Baragon, a terrifying, adorable puppy dog monster. Oh look, it's My Little Phony. And Baragon especially hates anything that might be cuter than him. Oh, and you'll never guess where the military ends up finding Frankenstein.
This gigantic cave was used as a powder magazine in the war.
That's right, the guy who looks like a giant caveman was hiding in a cave. Who knew? And guys, don't shoot him. Just make a giant cave girl bride for him and maybe he'll mellow out a little bit. Oh, and if you're wondering what happened to the guy who was at the oil rig Baragon attacked earlier, turns out he actually has a role to play in the plot.
I believe that Frankenstein isn't the only monster around here. There is another monster in the area.
Another monster in Japan? Get the fuck out of here. He says that various reports of seeing a monster underground reminded him of seeing Baragon, and between this and forgetting about Frankenstein's heart, this guy seems to easily forget some really important shit. And if you're wondering if there's an explanation for Baragon's origin, the answer is, it's a 60s Japanese monster movie. That's his origin. Alright, they do kinda say that he's a dinosaur, but I don't know. Personally, I think he was a puppy that got hit with gamma rays. I also don't know how they're still having so much trouble finding Frankenstein. Considering how much protein they say he needs to eat, he should be leaving behind some pretty big Franken dumps. These three are trying to find Frankenstein before the military does in order to save him from being killed, but Dr. Kawaji here has other plans.
I agree with those who say they should kill him. I would like his heart and brain intact for research. Then we can continue in a way to study him.
Plus, if we get his heart now that he's giant-sized, that means we can finally give King Kong that heart transplant he's been waiting for. And if the military can't seem to kill him, what are you gonna do?
I brought these to take care of him. I won't miss.
Look, Doc, I don't think something you picked up at a fireworks store is gonna be enough to defeat Kaiju Frankenstein, alright? And good work, Doc. You just woke Baragon up from his nap. He hates that.
Come on!
You're on your own, bitch! I don't have to outrun him, I just have to outrun you! Oh no, Baragon is so adorable, I just want to pet him. Fortunately for them, Frankenstein steps in and saves him. What, you didn't think we weren't gonna get a giant monster fight in this movie, did you? That was something Kenneth Branagh's adaptation of Frankenstein was sorely lacking. Alright everybody, get ready for Cave Boy versus Puppy Don. Frankenstein versus Baragon.
Dr. Bond!
You know, even without the giant monsters there, I still think that guy would have ended up getting killed. Just kidding, he's fine. He just needs to wait for the crew to finish dropping dirt on him. Frankenstein manages to hold his own against Baragon, and what's more, his front tooth finally grew in. And I guess Frankenstein's Godzilla now? Alright everybody, you know the drill. Giant monsters, you must flee. Man, if only Frankenstein had a tennis ball he could pretend to throw. That'd probably distract Baragon for a little while. I said pretend to throw it! Oh no, Baragon's ears are up! The more adorable he gets, the deadlier he is! I think Frankenstein's gonna need a new strategy here. Fire, good in this case. While I appreciate that he's trying to fight Baragon, Frank could have really used a lesson in fire safety since he ends up setting the whole forest on fire. I am glad that Baragon got a decent fight scene in this movie, considering he only got a tiny cameo in Destroy All Monsters. Baragon may be able to breathe fire, but Frankenstein has the advantage that he isn't wearing a big bulky suit and is a lot more acrobatic than most kaiju. And it wouldn't be a Japanese monster movie without the actor's safety being put into question. You know, I usually only use this gag in my Godzilla videos, but I think this is a good time to use it.
Oh my God, don't do this! Don't do it! Don't do it!
Oh my God.
Let's go, witness! He is broken in half!
The movie ends with Frankenstein seemingly getting destroyed by an earthquake, but there was an alternate ending filmed where after killing Baragon, a giant octopus appears on land out of fucking nowhere. Supposedly this was because the film's American producers insisted on having a giant octopus in the movie no matter what, but director Ishiro Honda felt that it was too abrupt and didn't make any sense. And if the director of a 60s Japanese monster movie says that, that is how you know it doesn't make any goddamn sense. Frankenstein Conquers the World was a reasonable success in both Japan and North America, although like a lot of 60s kaiju movies, it found its main audience through numerous showings on late-night TV over the years. And I guess the movie must have done pretty well in Germany, because afterwards they decided to rename every giant monster Frankenstein over there. Seriously, Godzilla is Frankenstein, King Kong is Frankenstein, Gamera is Frankenstein, every giant monster is Frankenstein. Jeez, you mentioned Germans briefly at the beginning of your movie and they never let you forget it. This isn't up there with the best of the Godzilla series, but it's still an entertaining movie. The idea of an immortal, radiation-resistant boy growing giant-sized and fighting a fire-breathing dinosaur might not be the most accurate version of Frankenstein, but it is a pretty original one, and the movie remains a fan favorite of kaiju fans to this day. Plus, unlike Mothra and Rodan, this movie actually managed to get a sequel. Well, kind of.